Hey everyone, hope you're well. We're back with the Code With Me series where we're looking at our parking permit system, and today we've got a few things to add into the program. We are looking at, let's say, all the things we didn't consider previously. So I've got a little list on my screen, but first of all I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been watching my videos to date, and for your support in that. We've just passed 3,000 hours, which that means monetization, and that's all thanks to you. So a big thank you from me to you. And what we're going to do today then is we're going to be using a bit of Heidi SQL to we're going to put an index on the registration number field. I will just talk about these fields, maybe just add them in without actually using them. Where we can add information in about when the record was created, when it was last updated, and maybe we can look at soft deletions as well rather than actual deletions, and we can update these fields through triggers. Now I let the database do the work. A soft delete, like I said, is when the record can stay in the table but we can hide it somehow, and that can lead into then database views. And then we're going to look at something from our previous video, which was, how do we handle the scenario when we find a record versus not finding a record and displaying that error message. And then we've also got an about box and version information. That's a bit of a mouthful there. So where shall we start here? So Heidi SQL, I've been playing with this a little bit more recently, and what I have got here is, first of all, I've just automatically put in a statement here about adding in, or to add in, an index. Typically the way that I was taught, if you want to call it that, to do it was basically we can easily identify an index in our database by using, let's say, an IX prefix, then the table name, and then the fields on which the index is on. So when you look at the name of the index, you get an idea. Well, okay, yes, it's an index. It's on the permit table, and it's on the rego field. So that if we then were to run this statement here, and we can then just run that selection, okay, we've already got that index. So the reason why I'm putting an index on now is because if you were to run a statement like something like this one here, where you are asking, well, give me the record from the permit table matching this rego number, well, it would, let's say, be doing a table scan without an index. It may be okay with a small database, but depending on how big your database gets, well, it makes sense to index it. So, and obviously in the case of a something like a rego number, I would expect them to be unique as well, but that's a different story. So now we've got that index there, and what we can now also do here is we'll add some more fields into the table here. So what we're going to do is, let's say, created time and updated time, and let's say deleted time, and here what we will do is I'm going to make these integers, and I'll tell you why about that in half a second. I'm not quite sure whether we can run all at once, but let's find out, shall we? So basically with SQLite, from my little reading, that basically it can store them in a few different ways, as a text, as a integer, or I think to the third type you can do it as a real value. So the reason why I'm not quite sure how well a string would go in a comparison, so I'd be more comfortable with an integer doing, give me all the records after this particular time sort of thing. And the reason why I would add these fields in then is so I know, well, why wasn't this vehicle taken into account on this date? Well, you could say, well, because it wasn't created until that date. or what, and that sort of stuff here. One other thing which you could add in, which I'm not going to worry about in this instance here, is having a field to indicate the user that did the last update. Now, so let's see if we can run all of these together. Run selection this time. Maybe it wants a go or something. Although it's not coming up. So anyway, we'll find out if it does it. If it doesn't like it, we'll do them one by one. So let's go there and run selection. Okay, well, let's do that one by itself then. Okay, that one worked. Maybe it wanted a semicolon. Anyway, I'll worry about that another day. And let's do this one here. And we'll need to do one more after this, and we will going to I wonder if we've got like a small int here. So let's go for SQL light small int. Data types. Okay, here we go. What have we got? Integer 1, 2, 3, 4. Integers. Well, let's just make it a small int and see what it does anyway. The idea, like I said, the whole idea behind a delflag type field is that rather than physically removing records out of a table, if you want them to become invisible, or you just need the records to be hidden from users, but let's say included in other reports, well, that's where a delflag can be helpful. And the idea being then is if it's null or 0, then the record is current, and if it is 1, delflag equals to 1, then the record has been marked as deleted. So now if we were to run, let's say run this particular query here now, you can see now that we've got a whole bunch more fields in our table, and we probably don't really want to be able to see all of these fields within the application. Even something like the ID field, you'd want that to be hidden as well. So the only fields then that you would probably want to show the user would be we don't have the name of the person who owns the vehicle, or that type of information, but let's just say you'd probably want to have that field returned in a query but hidden. That one returned invisible, returned invisible for the vehicle info. The vehicle color can be returned and visible, and this one here, whether or not it's registered, would be returned but hidden, and the rest of here we would also hide. So and ways that we can then use that ways that we can access or show this information can be through modifying the query that we're using in the program, or through using a view. So in this particular instance, we're going to be just modifying the query in our program. In another video, we can look at using a view. The benefit with a view is that if you did want to have another field visible for whatever reason, you could add it to the view and it would automatically be visible in the program. So let's just hide that part for a minute, go back to my little notes here and see what we're doing here. So we don't have any code yet for deleting, but what I'll show you first of all though is let's just have a look at what our program is doing as far as a select statement and an insert statement. So we're going to hide that one there, and we will go into our data module here, and what have we got here? Okay, so first of all, you can see in my insert statement, I'm not specifying what fields I'm putting values into. So we're going to have a problem there. But if we did specify which fields we're putting values in, you know, we won't have that problem. But because we're not specifying the fields, it wants a value for every column. Now here we are looking at, okay, so here we're doing our, we're having a filter here. We'll skip over that one. That's the reset one. Whether one exists or not. Okay, so let's go and look at our query here. What's that one? Permit list. Okay, so if we go to there, we can look at our SQL statement, what we've gotten here, and we've got select star from permit. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So we're going to build the program now. Wait patiently. We've got the window over here and it's doing something. What have we got? What is it saying here now? I have been working on oh no, it was actually doing something. No, it did work. Okay, I'm not quite sure what it was saying, but what's it got there? Okay, we'll just pretend that never happened, won't we? Okay, not there. What about, okay. Well, we're going to run this right now, and so here you can see the permit ID, the rego number, etc. And you can also see all the other fields out here. Again, these are the fields we probably would not want the user to be able to see. So the question then becomes, well, how do we hide this information? Well, let us, I've got to wonder what that button one is doing. We'll go back to our data module here, and what do we have here? Okay, so basically when we look at a field in a data set, we can make its visible property true or false. So by default, if it's a field is visible, then you can see it in like a grid, for instance. If we make the field, set its visibility property to false, then it will be in the grid. Well, let me rephrase that. It will be in the data set, but it won't be visible in the grid here. So what we'll want to do then would be to make some of these fields that we have in our table then to become invisible. So we've already said that we don't really want to, we don't need to see the permit ID, but we may use it in like an update statement. Now, we don't really need to recognize in a field whether or not a vehicle is registered, because we're using our color to indicate that from the previous video. So let us make that field, let's just move that out of the way a bit. We'll make that field invisible as well. And then we'll make all these fields here invisible. And what happened there? No, that didn't. That looks better. Deleted time. Whoops. Okay, that should be deleted, but we will. Well, let's fix it up next time, shall we? I'm not worried about it right now. So, with these statements here where we can make the fields invisible, then we can bring our program up again. And this time what you'll see here is that, well, first of all, that the the permit ID field, sorry, is invisible. The whether or not it's registered is invisible, but that information is still accessible to highlight a row in red here. But as you can see, I've still got the del flag visible, so we'll need to take that into account. Whoops. Let's let us close that down, and now we can run that again. Okay, we'll just stretch it out as far as we need to here. And now you can see we've got, I'm still presenting the information I want to show the user, but also I'm hiding the information that I don't need the user to see. Now we're gonna, but as far as this del flag is concerned, and as I said, we can look at a view, in another video, but at the moment, if I have a row deleted, it's still going to be visible in the grid. So strictly speaking, what we should need to do here, and I'm going to think it does, we're going to have to check whether I can do it, whether I have to do, del flag is null or del flag equals 0, or whether I have like an is null function. SQLite if null, return the copier, or null if both arguments are nil. If null, must have exactly 2 arguments. If null is equivalent to coalesce with 2 arguments. If null field, I'm thinking it's going to be if null. Okay, is there an example? Nope. Let us SQLite if null. Parameter 1. Okay, 2 arguments. If null with 2 arguments, return type if the argument is null. Customer ID from customers. Okay, so if the fax number is null, then it will do that one. Okay, that'd be a concatenation function I'm seeing there. Okay, so if that's null, then that. Okay, the else will be there then. Okay. Right now, I'm not going to worry about them. So what I'm going to do here instead is say where. Okay, now I'm going to add in see whether or not we can do a prefix here. P.delflag is null, or P.delflag equals 0. Okay, let's see if that will work for us. By the way, I'm adding in a an alias here for my table. I'm unlikely to be having any more tables in here, but this is the way I would ordinarily be looking at my SQL here, so that it's easy to read so far. So let us hit the OK button there, and we'll now run that again. And if that all runs fine, well, we're close to, nope, it doesn't like that one. But I had a del flag there, so what did I do wrong? Hit break. Okay, let's cancel out of there. Let's copy all of that, and we're going to test this over here in Heidi and see what it says. Why are you there? Let's get out of there. Okay, so let's go File, New Query tab here. Let's go to there. Okay. Paste all of that one, and if we... Okay, del flag query run. Okay, no such column as p.deo. Okay, I can't see my problem. The fact I can't type. So let's try that again, and okay, cool. let's go back to here and fix up my bad typing. Hit OK, and we can now run it again. Okay, cool. So now we have still got the same functionality, but now if I had a row deleted, then it will become invisible here. So let's just test that out. So we're going to go back into here and we'll knock out that first row. So let's just no. Okay, let's go back to here again. Let's run that one. It's the same query, but let's see. Okay, so now that one there has delflag. We go back to our program here, hit the refresh, and now you can see that it's gone, or you can't see it because, you know, of that criteria which we just put into our program there. So, where are we now? So basically what we've done so far is we've added some information in so we know when records get created and updated, but in the next video we will use triggers to set those values. We've added an index onto the rego field to make it easier for searching. And so now we will have to look at, well, how do we manage, you know, the searching of a row in the database, so whether or not it's found or not found. So for that particular functionality here, what we're going to have to do is to jump back into our function here where we're doing the find, and we're saying that if it's valid or not, then do something. Okay, so do I have any code here from before that we might be able to use here? And the answer looks like no. So do I have anything over here I could potentially steal? Do I have a no locate there? Okay. No, not there either. Okay, so that'll be cars data mod dot q permit list dot locate. Now we want a key field and values. Hang on, so key fields, key values and options. Okay, let's just go into here and see what we can. If not, okay. Why can't I do a locate them? Okay, okay, that'll be my rego. This will be my values I'm searching for, and I think I'll want to put that. I think I can get away with it there. And my options now will be find declaration of locate. No, okay. I know it can be partial, or I'm not quite sure what the last, like, can be partial or something. So let's go for T query. We'll just say locate. Okay. Sorry, Delphi. Company, professional drivers, LTD, search options. What are my search options here going to be? Why does this have to be? Hang on, that's Delphi there. That's not. Here we go. Let's just do that one then. Partial key here we're going to use. Go back to there and put that there. For the moment, I should probably move this into my data module unit. However, so If we do that, then begin and else, that means the record wasn't found here. So here what we could do now would be, that should move the cursor to that row, and we could, for instance, here set the put the cursor, make sure the cursor, it will set the focus on to the grid here. So let's see what this will do for us, hey? Set focus there. So let us now run this little program again and see what happens. So let's go for this fourth row down, 882 here. Well, that didn't quite work how I wanted it to. No. Okay. Let's include that one. That's the other one I wanted. It would be nice if there were an example here, but must contain a list of names of fields separated by semicolons. Okay, we don't have that. Okay, so what have I got? What is wrong with my statement here? And that's not running. So let's go to here, run and build again. Okay, we should run it now rather than, okay, so let's go for no. I know I had it running in my last demo, but why is that not working here? Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Unless it's... Just for giggles, what if I did that? Okay, it doesn't like that. Okay, so it probably would chuck us back if I did that too then. Yep, okay, cool. So we know my field's correct, so why isn't my search actually finding anything? dot data source dot dataset dot locate, and that should be all. No difference there really. Abort. Let's close, reset the program running. Now let's go let's try KVH then. KVH and find. Okay, let's try 777. Okay, so it only works from the front then, obviously. Okay, so it wasn't my bad code necessarily. We're going to say no there, so we'll just take it up to the top just for demonstration purposes here, and here we will go LLK, which should match this row down here. Find, it goes down, and now if I were to go left or right, up or down, you're in the grid right now. So I was a bit embarrassed there, thinking it wasn't working the way I expected it to. So yeah, cool. So basically what's going to happen here now is, we'll just put a little comment here. It should probably doesn't need to be one. Record found, set focus to grid. And here, then when the record is not found, then we're going to get that question, obviously. Now, one of the tricks, by the way, and I might cover this when we do the view. One of the things which is not recommended, so let's go back to here. We're in our permit list. Something like returning every field from a data set is not ideal. If you're only interested, like say, we are in a small subset of columns here, like we're only really interested in the permit ID, color, is it registered, etc. So those fields which we added earlier in the video, which were the created time, updated time, etc., we would just specify those fields. We would just specify those fields, you know, here in our where clause to show those ones. The idea being is if you're talking about green coding, then we're looking at only returning the fields from the data that we're interested in. You can also restrict that in a view, and if we are going to be doing something like an insert now, where we now only interested in inserting data into a subset of columns, well, here we are now going to have to specify, well, which fields are we going to be updating here. So here what we need to say now is permit ID, comma, rego, comma, what are our other fields, because I didn't really I'm not really paying any attention to what we've got here. So that will be the permit year. Let's just move that out of the way here. Okay, so I am going to push some of these fields down a bit. Okay, so here we've got a permit ID, rego, year, vehicle information, vehicle color, vehicle registered, and these other values. So we may as well do see whether we can now add one. So this is a side effect of having to adding fields to our database here. So let's just run this right now. And so we're now going to go ZZZ999 find, and we'll say yes, and we will get that information, and we'll now set the color to yellow, hit OK. It's been added in, so we know that is a success now. So far so good. So the last thing that we're going to be doing in this video here will be looking at an about box. Now for your about information, what you can look at here is in your project options, you do have, under project options, you have version information. And under version information, you can specify, do you want to include version information? And if you do, you've got a major, minor, revision, and a build. Attributes you can specify company name, file description, and other settings as well. And that information gets put into, becomes part, I believe, what the ELF header. So whereas in Windows it becomes part of a resource that gets linked into your application, with the resource editor or your resource compiler, I should say. Whether you're running on Mac or Linux, it's a bit different. So when you're using these sorts of functions, or the functions I'm talking about within your application, then we need to include these particular units into our program if we want to, be able to access that sort of stuff. File, info, and ELF reader on Linux. So if we were to, and we'll probably make this form a bit prettier, in our next video. So we've got to leave something for the next one. And we'll go and create a new form here. And I don't think I actually have an about form yet, or have I? View project. Let's just check out the project source right now. No, I do not. Okay. So here what we'll do, let's just go File, and we'll save as here. And we'll call this one here unit about. Now what we can do here, let's see whether we can, I'm going to find an icon later, right? Because right this second I don't really care about, I'd like to be able to find it, but I'm, do we have it here? Looking for a picture. T-image will do. Okay, let's just chuck that one there for the moment. And what we will do here is, I think right this second, I'm just going to throw we'll just chuck an OK button down there. And we will throw into here a memo. Ordinarily, I'm going to be creating some sort of labels and other things like that. Why is that a toggle box though? T button. Okay, that's a bit better. Because in the end, a particular form like this, once you've designed it once, you can reuse it in just about every application you've got. So depending upon how you want to craft it. So what we're going to do here is to make that a bit bigger. And again, the whole idea of having something like an about box here is it gives, if you have a customer with an error of some sort, then it, you can always ask them, well, what version was it in? And assuming you've got version control being used, well, it makes it easier to locate the issue at hand. So what we're going to do here, we'll move that up to about there. There we go. Yeah, I don't like that there. Let's move it all the way over here. Ideally, you know, when it comes to user interfaces as well, and we're going to be looking at in the next video, I'll promise you that in the next video we're going to look at anchors, and there was something else I was told to check out, alignment, actually, properties. But again, one thing I like to try and do in a forms is to make sure things are equally spaced, as far as the left hand padding, let's call that padding, or the margin here, that equals that equals that equals that part there for one. You just want to be able, something visually pleasing, for the user, if not yourself. So this one here, we're going to call this one here about form here, and I'm just going to leave ones resizable, because at some stage, you may want to have a link to your website or something on here. We won't have the capability just yet, but something that we can add in as a as an enhancement. So that's our caption here, our name. We will set that to form about here. And what we are going to do here, okay, so we're going to put, when the form is shown, so let's go down to here, and I'm actually going to go over here. I'm just going to move some code from my main form, because I was actually playing with this a little bit to try to work out how it all goes together. Okay, so here, what I'm going to do now is to say memo 1.lines dot text equals ls. Let's see what that will do there. How are we going to use that? Well, now we've got to jump back over here, and what I'm going to do, I don't need to have that reset button anymore for what it's worth, but we are going to fix up this form a little bit, in a, I'd like to have like a menu or something up the top here, but when I say a menu, I just want to activate it like a drop down or a pop-up menu rather than a full-blown something. So here, what we are going to do, we're going to call this one here button about, and when the button about is clicked, we're going to go to there. That's okay. And here, what we will do is create one of these. And let's just call this one equal one of those. So now we can go here. you probably might want to chuck you could probably just say with tform about and then do a show modal and a free rather than doing it this way. Halfway here, halfway there. You could make a class procedure, chuck it in the other one, and we could do that in the next video if I remember, or someone reminds me even. But what if we're doing it this way, that also means we can actually remove that form from there, and we don't need to have it auto created. And now we can test this little function here out as well, and I need to include it up here. Okay, so Tim Coates parking management 0.1.0.0. Need to fix up that button there. But let's go to here, and we will now put a close label that one close, and we will now go into here. Actually no, we'll just go into the modal result here, and we will set that to MR close there. So basically, by setting something like the modal result here, it means you don't have to worry about writing in any code yourself. It'll just happen because, and the modal result goes back to the caller if you want to do something specific. So, for instance, if they hit the you can almost see an example. Here, when the car wasn't found, you get a yes no button, MB yes, and in here you got an MR yes as a result there. So you can imagine what this form might look like if we had an image of the my application logo. Now the application logo, by the way, is also specified in our project options here. So you could have a picture of a license plate or something here if we were so inclined. If we were to change our file description, etc., then that information would be updated accordingly. So we're halfway now to having having an about form which we can do something with. I might make a couple of changes between now and the next video. So why don't we make a little list of what's left to be done here. So we need to fix the about box code for database and triggers for created and updated times, create a view to use and have program use that. I think that's a pretty good start, don't you? So what we've done tonight is like I said, we've made some changes. These are all the little things again that we may not necessarily think about when you're wanting to develop a software. Like what fields need to, well, strictly speaking you would, but in this particular instance here, what fields should be indexed for number one? Do we need to know about when things were added to the database versus updated and who'd made those changes? Whether we want to do hard deletes versus soft deletes. So in this case here we're doing a soft delete, and then we also added some code here to set the focus on the grid when the record was found here by doing a locate. And like I said, we're starting to add an about box to the program, and the about box is something you would be able to reuse in again a future video. So thumbs up for that one. So we're just about approaching the end of this video. Oh, we need some sort of menu in here as well, actually. Put a question mark there. And I promised that we would talk about anchors and alignment in forms, IGN, MENT. So that's for another video what we're going to look at. So it looks like we've got a fair bit of work to go still there. Yeah, so like I said, I just want to say thank you, and I really do appreciate all of your support. It is really a big step to be able to have this number of people been watching my channel for this number of hours, and I've got this number of users. So I honestly did not expect, to get this sort of response. So what we'll be doing in the future, well, nothing's really going to change. I'm still doing Pascal videos and stuff on databases because in some respect that is my background as well. So thanks again for all your support. It does make a big difference, and thank you, and until next time, happy coding, and I will see you then, and bye.